Hi, I'm Marty Childers, and I serve as the Associational Mission Strategist for Yates Baptist Association. I'm guessing that's why you're watching, because you are a part of our association. We're a network of 70 plus churches in the Durham Chapel Hill area, and these churches are all autonomous, and they have chosen to come together to work together for the advancement of Christ's kingdom. I'm actually doing this video because I know that there may be some misinformation. There may also be some questions that you have about the proposed bylaws that we'll be voting on August 31st at Guestford Baptist Church. So I just want to take a few moments to share with you a little bit about those proposed bylaw changes.
Yeah, in the spring of 2020, Marty Childers contacted me and asked if I would help serve on a team that would be looking into really the sustainability of Yates Baptist Association. We've known for years that finances have declined. We've known that we had facilities that were in need of repair. We were just wondering, what is our sustainability? So we assembled a team, and we began meeting in the spring of 2020.
Yeah, so last year at some point in time, we decided to have a restart team. And part of the restart team, we had guys and gals from different parts of the association just asking the question, what is it going to take for Yates Baptist Association to be a healthy association? What's that going to look like? And really, the nomenclature of restart hints at that. In fact, early on in the process, a lot of people may not know this, but our team, we internally called ourselves the survival team, because we felt like that was where we were as an association. We had no identity. We were a lot of good-hearted churches that claimed to associate together, but really there was no level of association outside of being on a list for Yates Baptist Association. And so out of that came a number of different things, but one of them happened to be bylaw changes and restructuring mission and vision, and asking questions about our building, asking questions about range and scope as far as are we going to limit ourselves to the area that we currently have, or do we want to expand our area? Those kind of questions started to bubble up to the surface about what it might look like for us to restart as an association to be healthy, all for the glory of God.
The need for the bylaw changes really goes back even before I got here. But as soon as I got here, which is coming up on 5 years, I started hearing people say, we've called you because we need a new vision. We need to firm up what our mission is. And so really it revolves around the mission and the vision of who we are, getting back to our roots. And so I would even say it probably goes back decades. The last bylaw changes were in 2011. I think most organizations need to have updated bylaws. They need to renew their vision. They need to kind of refocus. And so it goes back decades, but at least since I've been here, we've been talking about firming up the bylaws.
I think on one level, clarity is really important, because the enemy will use anything and everything to divide us. And we see that in areas outside of the church, no doubt, with politics and just the culture around us. Anything and everything can be used to divide us, and certainly that's true in the church. And so if we don't have clarity, what starts happening, unfortunately, even between believers, is that we don't always think the best in one another. And so there's skepticism from all sides, and what ends up happening is, again, we associate on paper, but maybe not actually associate around the mission of God. And so I think clarity is huge when it comes to providing that unifying effect that our churches need, our association needs to do, I think, what we're called to do, and what we volunteer to partner together around.
Well, we all know the verse, where there is no vision, the people perish. So we really want to have a vision of who we are, why we exist. I mentioned, earlier, just in the introduction, that we're a group of autonomous churches that have chosen to come together. But for some reason, as time goes on, you are together and you get comfortable. Just like a church, just like an individual can get comfortable. And so we need to remember who we are and what we've been called to. And really, everything that we're doing is really going back to the Great Commission. We want to see our churches fulfill the Great Commission. Our association exists not to do it ourselves. In fact, our association really exists to work with the local church, to help the local church fulfill that mission. And so for us as an association, as a network, we wanted to come together and remember who we are, and remember that the vision to reach the lost has been given to the local church. And so we want to walk alongside the local church to see that accomplished.
Well, we recognize that, among other things, that our churches in Yates Association are very diverse. And actually one of our discussion points among our committee, our team, was the fact that we are not only diverse in many ways, but theologically as well. And out of that came the notion that we would do better to rally around a statement of our faith that could serve to unify us, whereas before we were kind of going in different directions over something very central to who we are and what we're all about.
Yeah, and that's exactly the situation. In 2019, we voted to affirm what was considered, I guess, biblical view on marriage, of one man, one naturally born man, one naturally born woman for life, and we believe that is the biblical view for marriage. That was in response to the contextualized the world that we live in today, in 2021 even. But that was not really the impetus behind the changes. That was, if you will, a part of it. But as I mentioned earlier, I have people that when I first got here that said, we've been dealing with this issue for 30 years, and they were not talking about the issue of homosexuality or that situation in our churches. They were talking about really our stance on biblical perspectives and how that plays out in the local church, and really how that affects our mission. And so I'll get back to that's really, are we being the heralds, if you will, of the gospel? Are we taking the gospel to the nations who are coming, or have we forgotten that? And so this is a piece of the puzzle, but it's definitely not the main reason for the changes. The bylaw changes, I really believe, are trying to help us get back to our roots, to who we are. And when I say who we are, I am talking about the association, but I'm also talking about the local church, who the local church should be to be reaching their community, to be salt and light to a community that lives in darkness and in many cases in confusion. So.
The reality is that the doctrine of the association was not the purpose of this restart team. The purpose of the restart team was to meet the demand of our financial need and our need to determine, are we even sustainable going forward? Can we afford to have an association? Can we afford to maintain our facilities? Can we afford the staff that we have? The budget and the giving is down. So out of that, several issues were identified. Among those issues was the need to clarify our vision. Who are we? What are we about? Where are we going? And within the vision is the question of who are we? It came up the question of the issue of our doctrine, our statement of faith. Is it something that is unifying us, or, as we felt like among our team, actually something that was keeping us from being unified?
In some ways, clarity always creates more trust. Because again, getting back to the idea that we have a tendency to be skeptical, especially when lack of clarity is there. So cloudiness creates confusion, we might say. So I think in that way, as a pastor in the association, it does create some level of trust. But also it reminds me that as the association is going to create clarity, specifically when it comes to statement of faith and things of that nature, mission, vision, things like that, it gives me clarity and trust in the association as a pastor of what they're actually providing for us, or better yet, really what they're actually facilitating between our churches. Because I think a lot of times we think of Yates Baptist Association as providing something to us as churches, but that's really not the case. Yates is here to facilitate relationships through which mission can thrive. And in that way, defining exactly the parameters around what we're going to partner over and how it's going to be done, those kind of things, I think it does create a level of trust so that, I pastor an SBC church. I pastor an SBC church that has adopted Baptist Faith and Message 2000. And knowing where the association stands, if someone who is not either of those things, is not an SBC church, but is Baptistic in its ways, then I know that by them saying, yes, we want to still be a part of Yates Baptist Association, I know that the foundation for that is mission and nothing else. It's not these doctrinal issues that we're trying to fight out, but rather they're saying that even though we don't agree on everything, we do agree that lost people need to be reached with the gospel. We do agree that churches need to be planted. And for that reason, I don't see any reason why we could not rub shoulders with Yates Baptist Association and even have really thriving partnerships in that way. So I think the clarity puts, if you will, all the cards on the table. But it in my mind, it helps us to get past these doctrinal issues that sometimes can be hang-ups among our pastors. But let's be honest, among our people as well that we're trying to shepherd as pastors. It kind of puts those things to the side and say, okay, well, why are we really a part of Yates Baptist Association? Which I think was the impetus behind the whole process of revisioning some of these things in the first place.
As Baptists, the autonomy of the local churches is one of the pillars that we stand on. And I definitely believe in the autonomy of the local church. I support the autonomy of the local church. As a network of churches, we have to have something that we agree on. And we are saying, as we move forward, as we minister, as we see churches planted, as we work to try to revitalize churches, as we try to help the church, we have to have some parameters. So we're going to choose the Baptist Faith and Message 2000 as our parameter, but the local church is still autonomous. And I think we want to see what we can agree on, and what is, make the majors and the minors the minors. Are there things that are, I guess really kind of out of bounds? Every church has to decide that. Every church has to look, but we're looking on trying to find how we can get back to that historical, biblical perspective on the mission of God. And I think that's kind of where we are. But there's no agenda to see churches leave. We do not want to push any church out. We want to see how we can work together. There's no agenda to make our association a Southern Baptist Association. I get that question a lot. Are you a Southern Baptist Association? We are not a part of the Southern Baptist Convention in any legal binding way, but yet historically we were formed through the SBC. Our relationships have always been with the Baptist State Convention, have always been with the SBC, and so it's kind of an interesting situation. I want to work with Baptistic churches that are in our area that share our passion for mission and share our desire to see the gospel advance. And so I think that's the bottom line for me, and I believe it is for our association. I would say to the churches that are not affiliated with Southern Baptist Convention, and we have churches that are both dually aligned and some churches that are not affiliated with the SBC. There is no attempt to push you out, and more than that, there's no desire. We want to see diversity. In fact, I think the diversity helps us to move forward. As an association, we've chosen to accept the Baptist Faith and Message 2000 in order to help clarify who we are as an association. But that does not change the autonomy of the local church. It does not change their relationship to us. I think we can find, as many churches say, we'll find ways that we can work together moving forward. I think the main thing really that we're trying to do is to clarify who we are, in the world that we live, and that's always changing. And I think it's kind of interesting that we're adopting the Baptist Faith and Message 2000 in 2021. So this has been a discussion that's been going on for a long time within our churches. But each church has still the autonomy to choose their own statement of faith, and then decide if their statement of faith and our statement of faith, if we can continue to work together. And I'm hopeful that we can.
I'm excited about the possibility for the future for Yates Baptist Association. I will say wholeheartedly that we continue to be on an unsustainable course. My greatest fear is that we would dissolve. I would hate to see that happen. On a personal level, I am from the Durham area. I'm from an unchurched home. I became a Christian at a Yates Baptist Association church, Guest Road Baptist Church right here in Durham. So I became a Christian at a Yates Baptist church. I became called to ministry from a Yates Baptist church. I've served a Yates Baptist Association as a youth minister, as an education minister, and now as a pastor. I'm heavily invested in this area and in this association. So the future is bright if we pursue it as God leads us. Our Restart team feels very strongly that the recommendations that we are making are indeed God's purpose and plan for us to pursue, to put us on a sustainable course to carry out our mission, and not only to continue what we've had, which has been good, but to meet the needs of this current generation of churches in this area of the country in which we live. And just as our area, our geographic region has changed drastically over my lifetime, we must likewise drastically change so that we might meet the needs of our current culture with the unchanging message of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
I certainly believe that clarifying who we are allows other churches in the area, many who have been planted in the last 5 years, who are Baptistic, to understand who we are. And I think it does open the door for them to have conversations to see if they would like to be a part of us as well. A part of this journey over the last couple of years, as we've talked, and we're continuing to talk, is with our leadership team about the range and scope of who we are as an association. Historically, that's kind of been Durham County, a little bit of Orange County, drifting over into some other areas. Would that extend our area of, are there other churches that would like to be a part of us? And also, are there churches that are right here in our geographical area that for whatever reason in the past did not want to be a part of us because they didn't know who we were? And so clarifying who we are, I believe, is a positive for the possibility of new churches to come in as well.
You can count on the fact that this team represents our association, is invested in our association, seeking God's will and purpose. As you're educated, as you look over what we've done, I would hope that you would determine that you can embrace what we've done and you can partner with us as an association going forward so that our very best days are ahead, because the missional mandate is still there. The opportunities are there as never before. As you well know, if you're watching this, the Durham area, the Yates Association footprint, the population has grown exponentially. Our churches have declined exponentially. The number of people to be reached has grown exponentially, and God is able to do all things. And so our purpose and plan is to try to do everything we can to put us in a position, as God leads us, to reach and impact this area, this region that is vastly different than it was a generation ago, but to reach them with the unchanging message of Christ, and to help our churches to grow and to thrive, to partner together, fellowship together, go on mission together, and be that association of churches that will truly bring glory to God and impact our community for Christ.
So I want to say thank you for watching this and encourage you to be a part of the meeting on August 31st. We are asking that each church have their messengers there to be able to vote, and you're encouraged to come as well, even if you're not a messenger. But more than being there on the 31st, I want to ask you to be praying between now and then that this meeting will honor and glorify our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because I believe that's really what it's all about. So we'll meet on the 31st at Guestry Baptist Church. We'd love to have you be a part. If you have any questions or any concerns, my door is always open. My phone is always on. So I just want to say thank you again for participating, and look forward to seeing you hopefully on August 31st and even more so in October at our mission celebration.